And so do me a favor, like if anybody is coming and they are in the lobby, just let them in. Okay. So Karan Prabhu, if you can just see, or anybody whoever can let them in, that will be great. Okay, because I will be focusing on the screen. Okay, so let me share. All right. So we'll just do a quick review of what we did last week. So we have started the introduction. We are on the third day, and on the second day we covered 11 different paragraphs. And actually, Murnalini Mataji has done a fabulous job of taking the very good notes. So if you just look into her summary, so we discussed why Bhagavad Gita is known as the Gita Upanishad. Then we talked about the parampara, how the Bhagavad Gita, knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is being transmitted through the parampara system, starting from the sun god, right? And in due course of time, the knowledge was lost, and then Krishna himself appeared and then started the parampara by just retelling the knowledge to Arjuna. Okay, we talked about the different forms of transcendentalist, right? We talked about the Jnani, Yogis, and the Bhaktas, right? And then we also talked about the three ways to realize the Lord, right? From the Brahman aspect, the Paramatma aspect, and the Bhagwan aspect. Okay, and these Jnani, Yogi, and Bhaktas, they have the preference to go that way, right? Then we talked about the different five kind of rasas, right? So we all were in the spiritual world once upon a time, many years ago. We all were in the same family together, right? And we experienced the rasas with the Lord. And these are the five main rasas. They are main rasas like Santa, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsala, and Madhurya. So these are the five rasas we talked about, right? Then we talked about who is the Supreme Lord. Like when you say Sri Bhagwan Uvacha, so we talked about that. We gave the two references, right? One reference is from the Parashar Muni, who talks about the six riches, and like Dhanvan Bhagwan, and then whoever possesses all the six riches in completeness is called Bhagwan. Okay, so that's first definition. The second definition of the Bhagwan was the aspect, right? So he is the supreme source. S P is the proprietor, supreme proprietor. E, he is the supreme enjoyer, and C, he is the supreme controller. So who possesses everything in fullest? He is the Lord, right? And then based on the definition, what we know, Krishna is the only one who know Krishna or his many names. He has many names, right? So even like in the different, this we didn't talk, but there is something we talk in the DYS class, Discover Yourself class, that even Allah, Jehovah, all the names people refer, they are referring to the same Lord. There is one Lord. We all are referring to the same person. Okay, he's the same person, and because he has everything in full, so um, uh, it- so he has many names, right? So he's the same Lord. Then we talked about the material nature and how it acts. There are three modes, right? Goodness, passion, and ignorance. And then we ended with the last paragraph, which we covered, was that Bhagavad Gita deals with the five topics: Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Karma, Kala. Okay, so these are the five top topics which covers. And the slides, what I have done in the notes, and you guys can refer. I have put all the key points from what we covered in slides over here, right? So this is all here. And of course, the other one is how Arjuna accepted Bhagavad Gita. So he accepted in what mood he accepted, right? So Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan, right? Purusham, right? So he, with that mood, we have to imbibe, and with that mood, we have to approach the Lord. So this is like how Bhagavad Gita should be understood. What is the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita, right? So we also talked about this actually. Purpose of the Bhagavad Gita: deliver mankind from the knee science of the material existence. So Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita refers to the material science as a knee science. So the science is something which connect us to the where we have come from, to our root. That's the science. That's what the spiritual science is about. So there's a segregation: material science and the spiritual science. We segregate because what we have learned, we call the material science as a science, right? But that's not how the spirituality refers to, right? So we will going forward, we'll use this term material science and the spiritual science. But what you'll see, whenever there's a knee science, it refers to the material science. Okay. And then we what we have seen, that every man in this world, they have the anxiety, right? And then we have talked in the previous classes, even before the Dukhaliyam Shashvatam, right? And this is the asat, right? Temporary. It's not that this world doesn't exist. This is the Lord's energy. It exists all the time. And we will talk today a little bit about the Lord's energy today. Okay. So we talked about all the different, some of the citation we saw in the Brahma Sutra, right? So we talked about that. And then the topics of Lord's appearance, why Lord appear, and the 5 topic of Bhagavad Gita. So this is in your notes section. You can always come here and refer to. So today, let's see how we do today. And today, what I would do, after covering every 4 or 5 paragraphs, I will take a pause and see if you have any questions. We'll see that if you can answer the questions like in a couple of minutes, and then still maintain the flow. So we'll try to balance. So I'm just trying to see what works best for the class, where we can maintain the speed at the same time. It's not a monologue, right? It's a discussion. So let's see how we do today. Okay. Any questions before we start?
Yeah, Prabhuji, one question as to why Krishna chose Arjuna. He was a grihastha, but he was like the creamiest of the creamy layer. You know, he was right at the top. He was a prince. He was very learned. He was very skillful. He was blessed with a lot of good things in life, right? So, which is not the case with most of us. So, does that mean in order to understand the Bhagavad Gita, we do need to have some karma behind us, or the blessings of our forefathers, or whatever it is? Sure.
So it is a very appropriate question, and so we covered a part of the answer into the. Just give me a minute. My wife is giving me the feedback that the sound quality is not very good. Is that true? Are you guys?
Yeah, Prabhu.
It was bad. It was breaking up a little bit, but now it's good.
Yeah, nice. we can. I can hear you. Okay.
It's good, Prabhu.
Okay. All right. See, if Mukesh can hear, I think everybody can hear, because he has the most difficulty hearing me. And and you guys know why I'm talking. He's my colleague, so I just talk like that with him. So yeah, okay. So yeah, if you have any trouble hearing, let me know. Okay. So it's great. So answer the question. So part of the question was answered so far, that what quality Arjuna has, right? So Lord only imparts the deepest knowledge, the most confidential knowledge. Who do we impart the most confidential knowledge? To the people who do we trust. If folks can mute themselves, somebody is not muted. Okay. All right. Yes. So who do we share the most confidential knowledge? To the one we trust, who has the relationship with us, right? So now we look into the quality of Arjuna. So one, what we perceive in the world, and then we try to relate, right, with our experience. Actually, Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam talks about that there are different gurus, right? Like even by the observation, right observation with the right frame, we can learn a lot, right? So now look what Arjuna has. Arjuna had a very good relationship with Krishna. He came to the level, like with the all humility, right? He said that, please share, please tell me about this, right? So that's the other thing. So these are the external factors which we know, and then there are like another I showed in the slide, right? There are like around 14 or 15 parameters which is talked in chapter 10, right, which is in the notes. Now look, so those are the external reason. Internal reason, right? Internal reason, see, Krishna picked Arjuna because, see, the whole Mahabharat, he could have finished the war like that, right? He's the Lord. He could have finished everything. He was killing so many demons and like that, just like that Putna, and like when he was a baby, few days old, right? So he could have done that. He could have done that. But through the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, this message is for all of us. He's teaching all of us, right? So he chose a person who is a Grihastha, right? So the Bhagavad Gita is not for a renunciate who is a sannyasi, who is a brahmachari, who is not married. So in fact, 99% of this people in this world, right, they are Grihasthas in some way or the other in relationships, right? So it is for majority of us. So he picked Arjuna, who was a Girastha, who had children and grandchildren, who was doing the karma, right? He was a Kshatriya, he was fighting the war, right? So we all are fighting our own war, like in the work, in our family, we have so many things to do. We have to make the decision and all those stuff, right? So Arjuna was doing all those stuff. Right. So Krishna knew that when we, as the yuga progresses, we will have the same question. So this knowledge always exists. So he chose Arjuna as an example to give this message, right? So external reason and internal reason. So these are the two category of reason why Arjuna was picked as a person to get this knowledge. Does it make sense, Prabhu? Nishant Prabhu?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so let's start from this paragraph. Okay, so we will be following our method of giving couple of minutes time to read the paragraph, and then we will cover the key points. All right. So we are reading this one. So here, so see here, Nishant Prabhu, such as to invoke Arjuna, right? So where it starts is from Brahma Jigyasa, right? See why even our life is important. Our Grihastha life is important, right? Grihastha is a yagya, right? So it because when we go through the so-called happiness and distress of this world, we inquire why that is happening, what is the reason, right? The good logical person will inquire, right? That's what differentiates us, a human being from an animal, right? So in this case, the inquiry begins, and we start inquiring why I am suffering, what is the purpose, and then we say, okay, people are talking about Bhagavad Gita. It seems that it has some knowledge. Let's go and hear about it. Is it something meaningful which I can go and learn from it? So that's how we are a student and we are talking about this. So this is what this paragraph is talking about. So let's read these two paragraphs. Okay. So, see, it seems Nishant Prabhu asked, like, all his questions are getting answered in these paragraphs, right? So the first paragraph, that out of many human beings who are awakened, there be one who actually enters the spirit of understanding his position, and for him, this Bhagavad Gita is spoken, right? So we already, and the point is, the Lord is very merciful about living entities. Why we say that Lord is very merciful about living entities? Anybody would like to take a stab at it?
What did
Prabhu, example?
Because,
Okay, go for it.
no, sorry, go ahead, Karanji.
Yeah, Karan Prabhu, go ahead.
Prabhu, simple example is like free air, free water, free sunshine. That's what I want to add. That's
free
it.
paper?
Okay. Nishant Prabhu, you wanted to also
No,
talk?
no, but I guess your question was, why is the Lord merciful, right?
Yes.
Because we are all part of him. We are all a very minuscule part of him. That's why.
So, that's true. But how can you see if somebody is saying, but the Lord is very merciful? Do you see the Lord being merciful? Give me an example where you see the Lord being merciful.
I think Karanji's answer is appropriate, I guess.
Okay, so see, there is one way which Karan Prabhu said, that we can do the observation, right? We see the mother nature is there, and how come those things are helping us to live a wonderful life, right? So even the material enjoyment which we are getting, we are deriving from this context, right? Through the family relationships, through the mother nature, right? All those stuff. So that's one way. The other way is, let's say if somebody who is in a lot of stress and challenges in life, Lord is said like he's self-sufficient. He doesn't need anybody. He's always happy. Satchit Ananda, right? The blissful. He's always blissful, right? He doesn't need. But even out of his mercy, he's coming and giving this knowledge, right? Why Lord has to come and give this knowledge? Because we agitated against him, and we said that we would like to go and enjoy ourselves, right? But in spite of that, as a good father, he's creating an ambience and the knowledge so that we can read this on knowledge, we can understand the ambience, and then generate this propensity to go back to him, develop that inclination to go back to him. So, right, that's the reason why it is being referred that Lord is merciful. And as we go along, we'll see the example. Like, because why I said that, many times we do ask whenever we are in problem that I don't see the Lord being merciful. Why he has created, and especially for the people who are going through some close, like near and dear, leaving this body, dying, what we call, or through the bad relationships, we feel miserable, right? We think that this life is not worth living. So seeing through that, like even through that problem, seeing the Lord is the true vision. Okay. So the other one, being an associate of Lord Krishna, Arjuna was above all ignorance. So this is the question. Okay. See here, it is saying that Arjuna was above all ignorance. Then why Arjuna got into the bewilderment and start asking the questions when he is above all ignorance? You can see the dichotomy, right? Like one is saying that Arjuna was above all ignorance. At the same time, in the battlefield, he was put into the situation where he's saying that I don't understand what it is and how to make the decision. Tell me, right? So can anybody explain this seemingly conflicting? Yes.
I have a question not related to this thing what you are highlighting, but you said earlier, or you spoke earlier, that we got agitated, or because of nature, God has let us free, but He is merciful at the same time. So we talk about like, okay, the whole goal here is to probably attain that nirvana, or come out of this unending cycle of life and death. But if this agitation, are we saying that once you attain that, then you are never going to come back, fall back into this again, this life-death cycle? So I don't know if I am clear.
No, you are clear. So I would answer, but what I would request going forward, try to during the class, try to ask the question on which the topic it is, right? So that way we can always keep and track. So I will still answer your question, Prabhu, and then these questions, which is like it's still bothering you, but not something which we haven't covered. Try to keep it for the end, okay?
By the way, your audio is becoming again very poor. I mean, there's a lot of jitter. This
all
was the
right.
problem. This was
Okay.
what I was experiencing in the beginning as well.
Okay, so let me put a different headphone. Just give me a minute. Okay. Let's see if that gets fixed.
You are on mute, I think. You put yourself on mute.
Yeah, okay. Can you guys hear me now?
Oh, this is much better.
All
Yeah.
right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, I also feel much better because my ears are not that crumpled. Okay. So so Prabhu, so your question is, once we go back, is there a chance that we'll come back to again to this world? That's your question.
Yeah,
Is
if
that-
we became, I mean, if we become a part of the God or the Supreme Lord, then is there any chance that you can come back again?
Yes.
That is a question. Yeah.
Yes. Wonderful. So so see what once we go back to the spiritual world, we would never come back. This Krishna guarantees that. There are several verses where Krishna guarantees that you would never come back. There is the different kind of moksha. So when we say moksha, right, where people go and get into the Brahman, they go and merge with the Brahman. That's also a kind of liberation. So there are 5 different kind of liberations, which is explained, different kind of mukti, right? And that is called Sayujya Mukti, okay, in the Sanskrit word, Sayujya, which is going and getting merged with the Brahman. There is a chance that one can fall back again, back to the material pool. And the reason is that we, by nature, the soul is active, right? It needs interaction. And the Brahman platform, there is no interaction. So sometimes people may fall down. So to answer your question, if we go back, there are 4 different kind of muktis which we haven't covered. If we achieve that, we would never fall back. That's guaranteed by Krishna himself. Okay. Is that good?
Yeah, that's good. And we can talk more about it later. That's fine.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Any question on the paragraph which we covered? Okay.
So you had a question about this one, right? Is why Arjuna was
yes,
put
thank you.
into
Yes,
ignorance.
yeah, I asked this question. Yeah. So do you guys feel that it's a valid question, or you already know the answer? Actually, this question gets answered in this paragraph, but very slightly. Okay, so let me answer.
He was human after all, so he was not the Lord. So he was, after all, Arjuna was still a human. I mean, he was beyond a lot of ignorance or above a lot of ignorance, but just by being in association with Krishna, or from whatever learnings he had obtained in his life, but he was still human, so he would not have an answer to every question.
Okay. Yeah. So so Arjuna is the eternal associate of the Lord, right? So when the Lord comes, so see, whenever the king comes, a lot of his associates comes, right, together. So Arjuna was his eternal associate. So and he has the knowledge, right? And there are a lot of instances where it shows that Arjuna was like a kind of a superhuman, right, in the form. Of course, he had the material body. So from that perspective, is absolutely correct. He was the human being. He was not the Lord, and he was not in the eternal, but he's the eternal associate of the Lord. So see, the question get answered here. But Arjuna was put into ignorance on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, just to question Lord Krishna about the problem of life. So
So see what happens whenever the Lord has to do, right? I was talking in the last class, Lord is the director. At the same time, he's an actor also. So his directorship is that I would like to give this knowledge in a way which would make more sense, right? So who could be the better? Because Arjuna had all those qualities, right? A quality of a good Sisya. So he picked him. Now that Sisya knew all the answers. So Lord has lot of energies. One of the energy is called his, so you know, Maya. Maya Shakti. Maya Shakti is which is come under the purview of Durga Devi, right? So the Durga Devi, its names derives from Durg, right? So Durg is a fort. So we are within this fort. So we are totally engulfed in this fort, and the Maya energy drives us, right? Helter and shelter. If we don't really understand what we are doing, but there is other Shakti of Lord which is called Yoga Maya, right? So Lord can control these those he. You'll see a lot of instances where Lord would use his energy to put his devotee into illusion, right? So in this case, Arjuna was put into the illusion so that he can start asking those questions. Okay, so this paragraph is not that is contradictory. Arjuna is above all ignorance in the eternal world. He knows about the real knowledge, but because the Lord wanted him to ask this question so that we all can learn, he was put into the illusion by the Lord so that Arjuna started asking these questions. Okay, does that help? Okay, so we will read this paragraph. So if you look into this paragraph, this, if we can understand it, it can explain our life, why we are going through suffering, right? And so whenever we draw a system view, right? In this system view, there are 5 major elements. Okay, 5 basic truths: Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, time factor, Karma. And if we understand these 5 factors at the high level, and we can see the interaction, we can understand why we are born, why we have got this conditioned life. So one thing which I would like to bring your attention to, two fact, right? If a living entity says that he's not controlled but he's free, then he's insane, right? And this is the question I think Nishant Prabhu had asked in the last class, just before the class was ending, that there is a free will and then it seems that we are being controlled, right? So with that, we had that discussion. So we all seems that we are being impelled by something, even though we don't want the result, something seems that the things are being controlled. I am trying to live a very good life in relationship, and suddenly think something from somewhere comes, and then the relationship is in turmoil. It can be with your own family, spouse, with some other relatives, or something like that. The same time at the work, let's say everything is going well, and suddenly something will happen, and then you are in a very difficult situation. Correct? You see that somebody is pushing. So that's what is being. It's saying that even though we think that, oh, we are free, we are not really free, right? The things are being controlled, and this paragraph is not answering. It is just making us think that we are being controlled, where that control is coming from. So it just paragraph is leaving us with that question to think where that control is coming from. So that part one, which this paragraph is saying. The other is saying conditioned life. What do you understand by conditioned life? Anybody would like to answer? And I would encourage anyone, like the people who typically don't ask or talk, please take this opportunity to discuss. What do you think about the condition? When he says condition life, what do you think?
Is it like predefined life?
Okay. Okay. No, that's okay. Means no answer is a wrong answer because it's telling us what we are trying. See, observation, making sense out of it is a very important part of learning, and spiritual learning encourages that. Okay, that's the reason I'm asking to make you think. So thank you for attempting it. Anybody else would like to make an attempt to it?
Probably it's a material life, Prabhu.
Definitely. So material life is a conditioned life. The question is, when we say conditioned life, what it really means. So let me try to answer in short. But the whole Bhagavad Gita also talks about this, that we are conditioned. We are conditioned. So you see, when we say we talked about that we are part and parcel of the Lord, right? So that concept we know, at least theoretically we know, right? Even though we cannot observe it, but at least theoretically we know that we are part and parcel of the Lord. With that axiom, okay, now qualitatively we are the same. The soul and the super soul, we have same quality. But what happens when we come in the material realm, we get some covering, like this covering of ego, our mind, intelligence, everything gets covered. So it's just like the tree. The tree has the covering of the bark, lot of bark, right? So there's a covering. Similarly, our consciousness has lot of covering. Whenever we come in the material realm, so it gets covered, and that what it does, it makes us think that that we are the body, right? Even though we are the soul, we think we are the body. So we get illusioned, right? And that life is called conditioned life. So we are put into a condition. We are put into a box by these elements of nature. So that is what's called conditioned life. Okay, that's a very important concept to understand because this will get repeated, and as we go along, we'll find the answer to it. All right. Okay, so we will read this paragraph. Okay, let's read. Okay, so this paragraph is stating a lot of fact and lot of things which we might have observed or we observe, right? So so see here, the supreme God, Krishna, or Brahman, or the supreme control, or the Paramatma, you may use whatever name you like. So first thing is, see, this is our, like we talked about, Lord has many names, right? At the same time, there are different aspects of the Lord, right? And we talked the complete knowledge of the Lord is three aspects, right? There is the Brahman aspects, the light, right? Where people just want to go and merge. Then there's the Paramatma aspect. We all have the Paramatma in our heart, right? So we have a soul and then we have a super soul. Every one of us has those two souls in our heart. Okay. Then there is a Bhagwan aspect also. And then this Bhagwan has many names. So he say what Prabhupada is telling you, we may use whatever name we like, right? But the fact is he's the greatest of all, and that is Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, right? So that is the characteristic we have studied, right? So that's the first point. The living beings are in quality like the supreme controller. So this is again the other point. the living beings are in quality like the supreme controller. And let's think, reflect on this for a point being. Or let me ask you, let me make you reflect. When this line says that we are like the supreme controller, living beings are in quality like the supreme controller, what does it mean? Do you think that you are the supreme controller? And if you think, give me an example.
Prabhu, in a way, like we have all those quality, but at least micro level. In the sense, like we can create things, we can create programs, we can create softwares, we can construct things, but not at that scale. So we can
Wonderful.
say micro scale.
Very good. Very good understanding, Karan Prabhu. So see that just to add what Prabhu has already answered the question. We have this tendency to control. We try to control our spouse. We try to control our children. We try to control our work environment, our boss, or anybody. Like we have this controlling propensity. We want to be proprietor. We want to be in control, right? Where that quality is coming from? That quality is coming from the Lord. And now you just reflect on this beautiful discussion. Now, when we say part and parcel, then qualitatively we should be the same. Now we can see, hey, this quality I have, it is coming from the Lord. So that's telling me that I am the part and parcel, right? So we made an inference in terms of the mathematics. We made an inference, and then we are able to draw a conclusion out of it. Okay, so that's the beauty of this particular line. So moving on. So and this is talks. Lord has the control over the universal affair, but we are minute. So we try to control in the minute way, right? Nothing could be manifested without being controlled. So even this material nature. So even see this. This is a beautiful thing again to reflect. So we created this Big Bang theory that, and it is a theory. It's called theory, and it says that there was a big blast, and then everything started. We came into being, right? And there is no good reason. It says that why that blast happens. So there are good scientists. They say that we don't know why that blast happens. There may be something. At least I have heard some scientists say that maybe there is something beyond which we don't know, which is the very good way of saying that. Yes, there's something which we don't know why the science that happened. But there are some scientists who say that, oh, we know that there was just enough positive and negative particle, and there was an imbalance, and then blast happened, and then the whole thing came into being, right? But we have seen that whenever the blast happens, it does the destruction. It doesn't create the creation, right? But in this, the creation happened, that too so beautiful creation. And to reflect, there are so many planets going in circles or elliptical, different they have the different speed, and everything is going, and nothing is colliding, right? When the planes are flying, we have this control tower, and we have to really control. So many people are working on it, making sure this plane doesn't collide, right? And whenever there is a little mishaps, things happens, right? Now you think in this beautiful, like this earth is revolving for so many years with such a speed. Do you feel a jitter? They feel that like, oh, I'm having this tendency, like if you're going very fast, right? You feel the speed, right? You feel the G7 force or something. We don't feel any G force, just going on. Correct. And then it's not that one planet is coming near, then we feel the jitter or some turbulence. Nothing happens. So this energy, the point I am trying to bring, which is being mentioned here, is this whole manifestation is being controlled by the Lord's energy. And that energy knows how to control it, how to keep everything in order. Right? There is the logic, there's the energy behind this all beautiful manifestation. Is not that it is just come to be being there just out of magic. Okay, just we think it's magic because we don't know what is behind it. So that's what this particular line is trying to explain us. And it's giving the example of automobile, how the children would see that the car is going. If there's a black glass on the driver's side, the child wouldn't know that somebody is driving it, and the child would think that, oh, car is going great, right? So, but there is a driver behind it. Similarly, there is the Lord's energy. There are a lot of a higher power, which is making sure that all those things work together. That's where the concept of demigods and all those the different personality also comes into being. Brahmaji, all the different expansion of the Lord, they come into being. Okay. Okay, now it says in the later chapter as is part and parcel. So we learn about that. This is the another analogy which is again coming from our Upanishads. It talks about that we are a particle of gold, right? If we are in a gold mine, let's say in the gold mine, in the big gold mine, everything is a particle, but we are just a small particle which is just flying out of the outside the gold mine. Right, so that's how our relationship with the Lord is. All right, we are trying to control a space or planet. Okay, good. So I think we are those are the important points which we wanted to cover. Any question, or can we move ahead? All right, then let's read this paragraph. All right. So we talked already about this energy, right? So here is saying that Lord is a lot of energies. So, but it can be categorized into a few big categories, right? One is let's start from the very high level, inferior energy and superior energy. Inferior energy, the inferior prakriti, which is creating this material manifestation. So anything which is material, which is made of gross elements, is considered comes into the category of inferior energy, right? Then there is a super prakriti, the superior prakriti, which is always under control. So so even the jiva, so we are in the middle. It's called tathastha. So it will be in the further paragraphs. So let's start from here itself. The three categories. One is the inferior energy, and within the inferior there are two types. One is the gross, where the whole manifestation is created, and then with the superior within that inferior, that's where the jiva comes, and then the superior energy, which is the spiritual world, spiritual realm. Right, so the jiva is comes under to the like an edge, like a tathastha. It's called tathastha part, where depending on our propensity, we can be in the material realm or we can go back to the spiritual realm. Okay, so what it says, the prakriti is always the Sanskrit prakriti word is a female noun. So it is that it is always being controlled. So all this energy is always being controlled. So energy, where the energy comes, it comes from an energetic, right? Energy cannot exist without an energetic person, right? So there is a person. So think that energy can exist without a person. Logically, when you think, if the energy is there, where that energy is coming from, right? If I'm getting a light in my light bulb here, where that energy is coming from, right? There is something, it is coming, something is being generated behind the scene, which is giving that energy, right? So the energy always has a source, right? So this energy, and then so that's where, so it is being controlled. That concept of being controlled is being discussed here. Okay, so moving to the next paragraph. This one.
Hi, Deepak.
Yes.
Hi, this is Shikha. I have a quick question on this.
Yes, please go ahead.
I have a little problem with this statement where it says Prakriti is female and activities, and then goes on to say that activities of wife are controlled by the husband. Mm-hmm. Why would something like that be said, especially in the context of Lord?
Okay, so so see, here this is not being a statement is not being sexist that, oh, female is lower than the men, right? It's not. It is a much bigger realm. So even if you look the Lord, right? So we talked about the Sahasra Lakshmi. They are always worshipping the Lord, right? It is coming from that perspective. But so you should not think from that. Hey, here it is saying that the women are any lower than the men, and I will give the example why that line of thought cannot be interpreted. If we look into all the important position of this in this world, right? Durga Devi, who is the in charge of this whole Maya Shakti, she is a female. The Saraswati Devi, right, who is in charge of the education department, right? So see all the big department, finance department, Lakshmi Devi, right? All these big departments have been given to the female form of the Lord, right? So the male form or the female form, they are the energy of the Lord. Okay, so that is but at the same time, there is the superior energy and there is the inferior energy, and there is this order, right? So where is so what is telling that the person who is the ultimate, he is like he is controlling everything. So here the Prakriti is telling that is being controlled, right? So this example is Prakriti is a female. That's the female form. Is even we all men, we think that today I am born as a man, tomorrow I can have a birth and I can be female. So I shouldn't be identifying myself with a body that today I'm a man body, tomorrow I'll be female body, but I'm a soul. I don't have a male or a female. Right? It's the body association which is causing me to think that I'm a man or a woman, right? So, but the fact is that I'm being controlled, and the person who is being controlled is controlling is called, in the sense, it's called Purusha, right? Purusha, and all the things which is being controlled is called the Prakriti. Okay, so Purusha and Prakriti. That's how it is described in the scripture. Hope that helps.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Prabhuji, I believe I think where Shikha is coming from is the comparison being drawn here, where it says just as a husband controls a wife. You see that's where I also sort of had a question, but I didn't ask. But why is it say just as the activities of a wife are controlled by the husband?
Okay, so
exactly. I kind of agree with what you said, Deepak, but I just kind of still feel like, why was that sentence necessary here at all?
Yeah. So see, Prabhupada is a sadhu, right? He knows a lot of things. So if you start reading the story from the Puranas, you will see that Rishi Munis, right, and all those, right? So there was a duty, right? So Rishi Muni, take example of Kashyap, their role is to go and meditate and create the knowledge, and right, and the Prakriti part, right? There's the progeny, right, keeping the order. So there's always, like when we have the wheel, right? So there's always the order, correct? So it is always said that the means I don't want to go into a lot of detail because that will detour. Just hold on that this it is not being talked in any being controlled. We from the material perspective, we think that, oh, if somebody is being controlled, then that person is little inferior to the other person. Right? So even both the spouse control each other. They try to control each other. The husband tries to control the wife tries to control the husband. And when they try to control both each other, then there is a fight. So you will always see in the family also, one person is trying to is more dominating than the other, and so it's like a hot and a cold, and then the family goes very smoothly. Whenever there's a hot and hot, when both are trying to control, then it becomes a problem. So similarly, this whole manifestation is designed that way. Some things are controlling something else. Okay.
The only thing I would add here, Deepak, is and for the a lot of these things are interpretations and translations of the actual scripture to relate to context for us to understand. So if you actually go to the actual Sanskrit shloka, and so probably this interpretation is for the common man to understand in that context, which was probably, I don't know how many years ago, So I think just like our Upanishads, there are a lot of translations and interpretations for the common man to understand. That's not necessarily how it is written in our scriptures. So that's my perspective.
Vivek,
But
that's
that-
very good actually. So that's see the these Sanskrit text people and this is also by reason by design, and in the further paragraph you would see that the same people who are reading the Bhagavad Gita, some will become Jnani, some will become like the meditator, right, the Stanga Yogi, some will become the Bhaktas. They read the same Bhagavad Gita, but depending on our propensity, we turn out to be different because that's we have an internal consciousness, desire, and Lord gives us that much of a freedom to do that. And then as we learn as we learn, so that's the reason why we have this birth. So what Vivek is telling, these examples we should take as the part of understanding that why it is saying, so that we can make sense out of it. And sometimes it causes confusion because then we see it through our vision, and our vision is not completely is pure. So we draw the different meanings sometimes.
Can I add something real quick? Again, something is bothering me.
Okay.
May not be directly related, but when we started with this book, Bhagavad Gita as is, so I took it, the way I understood it, that this is a literal translation of what is written in Sanskrit, meaning that there will be no color added to it. But as we are going through, I do see that we are trying to explain it by bringing in those context and examples, right? So can you allude to that? Like, why should I believe then this is as a compared to any other Bhagavad Gita which has been written in any other, maybe in English?
Still in introduction though, right? We're not even started Bhagavad Gita yet. This is just an introduction.
Yes, so that is the answer. So thank you, Prabhu. So yeah, so this is the introduction. It is bringing it's summarizing everything and putting it together. Now to answer your question, if you go once you start reading, you'll see that. Let me take an example. I have something maybe open. This just open here, right? So you see, there's a Sanskrit. There's a word by word translation. Okay, so it is like you will interpret this. At the same time, then what happens when you say aham, atma? There are many words which are like, if you are in computer science, overloaded term. An overloaded term means how it has been defined in the class, right? So then so there is a context to it. So if we don't understand the context, and that's where when the translation will be literal, but when you go to the purport, it will bring the meaning because it gives the context. So Bhagavad Gita, if you just people, so there was, I'll tell you, there was recently something was going on the WhatsApp, which was where a Jesus proponent was talking that, hey, Bhagavad Gita talks about the Krishna is the Lord of the bad things. Right, he's the demon. He's the lord of the demon, and then he took one verse out of context, which is telling that Krishna controls all the bad energy also. And before that, Krishna is talking that I control everything, the good energy, the bad energy. But that person only took one of it. Now, people, if you just take that, then we will come with some conclusion. If you don't read, understand it in the whole concept, right? So whenever you see the introduction, it's trying to put everything together, right? Because see, it's trying to get us ready to start digesting it. So it is giving a synopsis, give big picture, right? The big picture without giving all the concept. And that's where you see some of the, you are getting those questions. Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. So let's move, guys.
Going back to that previous discussion, if we had just said, just as a wife controls a husband, it would be so much better, right? I mean, it would be a win-win kind of a thing.
I would say let's leave the topic and move on. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's move on.
I would like to have a discussion later because I have bigger question than this.
Sure,
related to this, but yeah, we can talk about it
sure.
later.
Let's let's first go through it. Then at the end we can talk about those questions. Okay. So this is talking about the karma. Okay. So so why why we get into this cycle of karma? The reason is there's always a reaction, good reaction or the bad reaction. And we have been living this life for many lifetime we have talked about, and we come into these control of these three modes: the mode of goodness, sattvic, passion, rajasic, and the mode of ignorance, tamasic, right? So we come into these three modes, and depending on our desire, proclivity, and these modes, we generate the karma, and then we have to go through the result of those karmas. So that's what this paragraph is talking about. So this is the like amassed a great bank balance. So one thing about the karma is the characteristic, which is not in this paragraph, but because we are here. So do you think the good karma and the bad karma, they negate each other?
They don't negate.
No problem.
Yes, they don't negate, and we will when there's more discussion on the karma, we'll talk, but they don't negate. So if we are generating the piety, we will experience the material happiness and all those stuff, and then we had the bad thing. So like a rich person, okay, they have a lot of richness, at the same time they have the cancer also, right? So simple, that's something like that. Okay, let's read this paragraph. All right. So it is again showing up. So we understood the 5 topic. So one key takeaway is that the 4 of these items are eternal. They always exist, and karma is not. And one of the things where people get a little confused is about prakriti, because a lot of philosopher, when they write, they say it's asat. Asat means which doesn't exist, right? So this is again the Sanskrit, the asat which doesn't exist. But asat also means it's a temporary. It means that it comes into being, that's get annihilated, then again it comes into being. So it just changes the form, right? It's just like a soil, mud. We use that to create a vessel, and then we break it, it becomes a lump. Again we use it to create the vessel, right? So that's how the prakriti is. It always there, so it's eternal. Okay, so that's where the whole paragraph talks about. And the karma is temporary, even though it seems that, oh, we are dealing with the karmic reaction from maybe my a millionth life back ago. We never know, right? But so it is for a long time in terms of the human years, but it is not eternal. The reason is that by doing the Bhagavad Gita talks that he says that abandon all variety of religion, surrender unto me, and then he says that if you surrender unto me, I will free you up, right? So basically, once those karmic reaction also, which we have generated, can be burned away. Some of this karmic reaction can be burned away, and some of the karmic reaction, which is called prarabdha, which doesn't get burned away and we have to still go through, is still we feel that that goes through very easily because the Lord is there. He comes along and then walks. It seems that he is walking. So a lot of people who have the disease like the cancer or things like that, they have gone through the cycle and then they have said that, oh, I have passed through it, and it seems that the time just flew by, right? And some people, of course, they have a bad taste, but a lot of people, I know some of them personally. In fact, I have my own experience where very tough time and all those stuff, it just seemed that it just passed by and then we learned so much from it. So that's the reason why I say karma is not eternal. Okay, so and this fact we will see further in the Bhagavad Gita. Let's read.
One quick question on that.
Yes.
So karma and prakriti, to me, it seems they're sort of intertwined. Which one determines the other?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
So, I mean, I think there is a very close relationship, some relationship between karma and prakriti. I mean, prakriti is also sort of temporary, right? I mean, it is eternal, but still it can change its character. Is that correct?
Okay, so you are asking what is the relationship between prakriti and the karma, right? So they, yeah, okay.
So
I lost your last sentence.
No, and which one determines the other? So does my karma determine
which one determines? Okay, so right now just understand that it is interrelated, right? These are interrelated. So so if you think from the prakriti, the three modes, right? These three modes are the part of the prakriti, and if our desire are not is dovetailed to our self-satisfaction to enjoy myself, then so even though I have that inclination, you say that okay, I want to govern it, but then it comes under the purview of these three modes, and then those three modes, when they interact with our desire, depending on the karmic balance. So karmic balance also. So I let's take the example. I want to buy a car, right? Let's say I want to buy a Tesla. And so Tesla Model X, let's say, for example, that's around $100,000. So I want to buy it. So I want to go and shop around. So right. So websites. So these are this information is there, which is enabling me to go and do the research, right? And I'm using my intelligence. So those are the things which are helping me to do that. But do I have enough money to buy or not? That is my karmic reaction, right? So if I don't have enough money, so even though I have a desire, I cannot. And there's and the context is conducive, right? Let's say it has the supply. Right, it is they are still producing Tesla. Then the environment is conducive, but I don't have the karma, the karmic balance. Then I won't be able to fulfill. Okay. On the other hand, I have the karmic balance. I have the $100,000, but I want to buy, but there is no production. Production is in backlogged. So I may not get it immediately. It might be coming 3 months. So they're like the modes, which is the things which are not under my control. They are coming into the picture. So you see how this through example, they are intertwined. So it is not that, hey, which is controlling. So depending on the circumstances, these are interplay. On top of that interplay, there is the Ishvara, Deva factor also comes into the play. Right. So and we will read about that. That's discussed. The discussion will start happening in chapter 18, if I remember correctly. OK, so it goes much deeper into this. So is that good enough to move on?
That was a great analogy. Thank you. Yes.
OK. So let's read this one. So here, this paragraph is talking about the two aspects of the inferior energy of the Lord, the Prakriti and the Jiva. And what is the difference? Jiva has consciousness. The Prakriti doesn't have the consciousness. So anything which has consciousness is the higher realm. Okay, so that's the one of the difference. The other thing is when we say consciousness, lot of this misconception comes, especially when the people say that they think, oh, we have the qualitatively we are the like the part and parcel, and they start thinking that we are the Lord. A lot of people say that, oh, we are all, because qualitatively we are the same, we are all Lord, right? So in a way, depending on the intent, how the people are saying, and that's where again the interpretation comes into the play, how people are seeing it. If they read the Sanskrit, they say that, oh, it's qualitatively we are the same, then we are the God. But when we read the whole scripture, it says that we are the minuscule part of it. So qualitatively, we are very small. So we have the consciousness, we have the conscious. What we are conscious of? I am conscious of my body, right? I know I have hand, I have ears, I am talking, right? I can see you. So I'm conscious of me. What I am thinking, I'm conscious of me. But do I know what Nisant Prabhu is thinking? What Mukesh is thinking? No, I don't know, right? I'm not supreme conscious. When we say supreme conscious, he knows about everybody, right? Everything and everybody. That's become Purusha. And we all are Prakriti. We are all are Prakriti. We are being controlled. So that is the message from this paragraph. Okay, let's read this. I think we have discussed the all the points of this, right? So only thing word you would see, the Lord is Kshetragya, and this is the concept we will be talking about all this concept in the further chapter. So it says chapter 13. So we will be talking about but we did talk about that how Lord is supreme conscious and we are just a conscious. And then there is a talk about the karma and how it is entangling. We have already talked about it. So I think everything is covered in this, unless you guys have the question.
What is that Kshetragya?
Yes. Kshetragya means he is the knower of everything. So Kshetra means area. Gyan, right? He's the knower of everything. We know our Kshetra, right? Our Kshetra is our consciousness, our body, right? So that's what it means. Okay, so let's read this paragraph. All right. So so here this paragraph is mainly talking about the consciousness and how our consciousness is conditioned, right? So this is not pure. And the one of the analogy it is giving, and this is a good analogy. Let's say I'm wearing a glass, right? It's a transparent glass, so at least I can see the things like, okay, what color it is, okay, is the text is white and all. Now let's say if I put a red glass, the text of the color will become red, right? Everything will become seems little red, right? Even though it's not red, but because the color of my glasses are red, everything reflects like red, correct? So similarly, our consciousness, in the pure state, is like a white glass. We can see the things as it is, the way we are supposed to see. Okay, but when we come in this material realm, due to our desire, our consciousness is covered, and depending on our what we would like to, what we want to do, right? This creates the inclination, right? And that leads to the conditioned way of thinking. So that's, you can think that we say the light is being reflected or refracted, right? So that's what it is talking about. Okay, so that's about the consciousness, that discussion. And then it's saying that the Bhagavad Gita teaches that we have to purify this material contaminated consciousness. So whole Bhagavad Gita, the principle is when we say Sanatan Dharma, the Dharma, that what is talked about. The process to purify our consciousness so that we can go back to our home, right? And how it does? By dovetailing. So Bhagavad Gita will tell us how to dovetail whatever inclination we have with the will of the Lord, Ishvara, right? So it will go into a lot of those details. So that's what it talks. And then it says the purified activity is all called bhakti. So when we say devotee of the Lord, right? They are devotee of the Lord. If you see from the outside, they are very normal human being. They will look like me or you, and or they will look like a very poor people. Like if you go to Vrindavan or any places, the so-called holy places, you will see a lot of these sadhu babas. Some sadhu babas are very pure. Some sadhu babas are just acting, right? So they look very ordinary. That means everybody seems ordinary. So, but for one person, it is they have dovetailed all their inclination with the Lord. So everything, whatever they 24/7, they are thinking about the Lord, how to make him happy, what they can do for the Lord, as if a spouse thinking about the other spouse, how to keep my partner happy, right? 24/7. But we as a spouse, we don't have that. Means we always think that, okay, I'm making my spouse happy, and then after that my spouse is not making happy, then it becomes a problem, right? In this, but this is the bhakti is, it doesn't expect anything. It is the true love, right? That's what so he's saying that whenever when the purified activities are called bhakti. Any question there? Otherwise, let's read this. So one key takeaway from this paragraph is when we say what is mukti, what is the definition of mukti? So it is saying that, of course, one way say, hey, mukti is coming out of the cycle of birth and death, right? From the consciousness point of view, saying that coming to the stage of pure consciousness, that's mukti. And why that is a better definition than the cycle of life, birth and death. Anybody has the answer? So my question is, we understand colloquially from the mukti that one way to understand, which is to come out of the cycle of life and death. That's a definition of mukti, what we know. Here it is talking about a way to come out of this conditioned consciousness and becoming a pure consciousness, that definition. And I'm saying that this definition, which is it's talking here in this paragraph, is both definition are right, but this definition is even more encompassing of the definition of mukti. Why is that? So let me, this is a very, very deep topic, but this you will relish it. I relished it when I understood it. So when you are in love with somebody, right? You would like to serve that person, whether that person is in this house or outside the house, right? Doesn't matter where that person is. You are always thinking of serving that person. If let's say if that person is let's say not a very good, like it's like in a factory where there's a lot of noise and all those things are happening, and still you would like to go and serve that person. And let's say that same person is in a very serene place, still you would go and like to serve the person. So person who is in love would like to serve the person, doesn't matter where that person is. In the case of mukti, the first definition, which is coming out of the cycle of life and death, which is that I would like to come out the cycle and live, and I would like to serve the Lord. And where is Lord? Lord is in the spiritual realm. So I would like to go there and serve the Lord, right? So that's mukti. And there are different Sayujya, Sarip, Samipya. We are not talking, there's a deep philosophical subject. We're not talking about there. But now you come to this definition that once my consciousness get purified, then I'm free. Why this is, I'm saying this is all encompassing, because if I'm in love, doesn't matter what situation you give me, I would like to serve that person. That's the real love. So even if I am in this material realm, so lot of sadhus who are purified, and the story you will hear. So Kunti Maharani is talking about to Krishna when Lord is leaving for Dwarika after the war. See, she is telling that, Lord, please don't leave, means keep giving me more misery so that I can have more association of you, right? So pure devotee, when the consciousness are completely pure, we just want to love that person, doesn't matter if I am in problem, that is the side effect. I don't really care whether I'm in a material realm or whether I'm in a spiritual realm. I want to serve the Lord. So pure consciousness can happen in this world, right? And I can enjoy serving the Lord. Or the same pure consciousness can go into the eternal world, and there I can go and enjoy serving the Lord. Does it make sense?
Yes, it does.
Do you feel such a wonderful, and these are all written in scripture, means the more you read the scripture, it means you will feel like a real bliss, like you will really enjoy. Wow, you'll see, wow, means it's just such a wonderful thing. So we will, 5 minutes. So let's end the class here officially. The first thing, before we go to the question and answer, I would ask everybody to please kindly do your reflection. So I'm just going to put the link in the chat window. You may already have this in WhatsApp also. So so it's in the chat window for you, and then let me put into the WhatsApp also for the people. I know some of you don't see the chat. Is there anyone still here who doesn't see the chat from the Teams? All right. Anyway, I'm putting into
Yes,
the.
Prabhuji, this is Preeti. I'm not able to see the chat.
Okay, no worries, Mataji. Okay, so I have posted in the WhatsApp. So please click, and you can save this link if you can just click and put your reflection. I'll give you 2 minutes, and then we will take the questions. And let me note down where we are ending the class. Otherwise. Okay, so we covered up to the conditioned soul. So we will start from what is this consciousness. So we will start from here. So Preeti, you should be able to see the chat window now. I think I just changed your permission. But anyway, so I think you are all are entering your answers. So let's ask the question. So anybody who hasn't asked the question before should get the first preference. So if you haven't asked before, please go ahead first. Okay. In that case, any questions, anybody?
Out
Ashutosh
of
had a
our
question.
topics, I have a question out of our topics. Can I ask Prabhuji?
Yes, yes, yeah. Topic question should be given preference. Yes, please go ahead.
But sometimes, like I mean, I was watching some like movies or something. In some movies, it shows right. Maybe if you remember that Dashavataram movie, so they took that initial concept between the what do you say? Vaishnava Bhaktas, and there was a fight in 12th century between Vaishnava Bhaktas and Shaiva Bhaktas. So was it true actually? Because why like there would be that like that kind of fighting will happen between Bhaktas because both are lords, right?
Yes. So first of all, I don't know about this particular instance, but I can give you the answer for the in the generic term. So if you read the our scripture, there are many places where it seems very illogical. And when you read, then you further go and delve deeper into it, then we get the answer. For example, I'll give you like we think that only the birth should be seminal, right? So the two people from the opposite sex, they come together and then the birth happens. But when the Brahmaji is creating the progeny, all the things are coming, a lot of personalities are coming through the mind. Some are coming from the noses. The couples are being coming from the mind, and then they go and do the procreation. This is beyond our conception, right? So there must be a reason. So I don't know about those story. We have to read the story to understand what is the takeaway, that why the bhaktas would be fighting. At the same time, I can give you, when we say even the bhaktas, doesn't matter whether even the demigods who are living in the Swargaloka, they also, you will be surprised, but they also come into the control under the modes. So modes control them also, but they are the more purified bhakta than us, right? But they are also coming in Indra. Indra gets bewildered many times. Brahmaji got bewildered, like Brahma Vimohan Leela, right? So and so those things, because I have read, I can explain you that. This particular thing I cannot explain.
Okay, that's okay. Yes, I just got that question. Like,
okay, no, I know, I don't know why there was a fight, but of course, each of those stories, it teaches us something.
Okay, thanks, Prabhu.
Prabhu, you can add something about when you said Brahma Vimohan Leela. You maybe not many people are aware of it, so if you can give it in short, it will be helpful for people.
Okay, sure. So you know, in the pastime, in the Krishna Leela, Krishna pastime, the all the gopas and gopas were with the Krishna, and they were tending the cows, and suddenly, so Brahmaji is thinking that why this small boy has come and he is killing so many things, so many demons and all those stuff. Let me go and see who is that person, right? So Brahmaji comes, and then of course there was a demon also. There is a fight, and Krishna has killed that demon. And then what Brahmaji does, he takes away all the gopas and all the calves and the cows, and take them away and put it into a different place. So they are all gone, right? And then Brahmaji comes and thinks that, oh, let me see what this young boy Krishna does. Then he comes and he sees that all the gopas and all the cows and everything, they are still there. They're all there. And in the evening happens, they go to their home. They are all with their family as if like nothing has changed. They are exactly the way they are behaving. Brahmaji is like, it's Vimohan, right? So Brahmaji gets totally bewildered and confused. What has happened? And this goes for a year. In the human life, for the human time, it goes for a year. And then Brahmaji is totally confused. Then he understands, oh, wow, this personality is maybe something beyond which I can even comprehend. Then he comes and bow down, and then he asks for the sorry, and then say that, I'm sorry, I really didn't understood your power. Even though Brahmaji, he is the first original creator, right? Even, and his body is made of all intelligence. He gets bewildered by the personality of the Godhead, right? Then who are we to understand him, right? So this story tells us that Lord is beyond our conception. If we think that we can understand him, we are ignorant. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to understand. So we can understand how great he is, what he's telling us, what's give a message. But can we understand every aspect of him? Probably not, right? And this Brahma Vimohan Leela tells us about that. And this is very short. I've tried to summarize. This is multiple chapters in Bhagavatam. So I've tried to summarize in a very few minutes.
In YouTube, there is a very nice episode on this. It's a animated episode. I always show it to my son, and he enjoys it. In this specific episode, like it shows that where Brahma stands, where Krishna stands. So if you are more curious about it, just watch it on YouTube, or just I'll share the link with you. It's
you can share the link.
One more example.
Yeah.
Prabhu, can I give one more example where which relates with the situation is when Indra attacked the Govardhan, like in Vrindavan, he attacked Krishna himself, thinking that's a boy, right? Even the Indra get bewildered by the activities of Krishna. What to talk about human fighting with human on the name of God.
Yes. Yes, definitely, Prabhu, definitely. So yeah, let's give other people the chance to ask the question. So maybe we can take one more question, and for other questions, I would request please put into the chat window or put into the OneNote. And actually, I should have started by answering the question from Anmol. I don't know if he had joined today or not, but anyway, because there are some questions which has been asked, but I haven't seen them joining. That's the reason I haven't answered. Okay, so anybody, maybe one last question because we are above our time. All right, then if no question, then we can end the call. But you are most welcome to send me your question in the chat or on WhatsApp or any way you'd like. Okay. Thank you. Then we will end the class. I will stop the recording. I will share the recording with you.